people of the world! Do you know what time it is? It's music time. We are so pumped up to the jam to have you with us. I am Morgan Mitchell, and with me as always is Tanner Grover.
What's up, Morgan, and what's up, universe? You are indeed tuning into a podcast where two friends who love music, yet have virtually no musical acumen, take a deep dive into the vibes that really make us jive.
That's right, because if there's anything that unites us all, it's music. An audible sensation. To live without it is simply deprivation. So, we're here to hear and to share a little slice of a subject that gives us life.
Tick-tock, tick-tock. Are y'all ready to rock? Tell me, friends, what time is it on your clock?
It's music time! Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Music Time Podcast. We are so delighted you're here. My name is Morgan Mitchell.
And I am Tanner Grover, and this is what we do. And today we are doing it with
Brian Nadeau. What's up?
Thank you so much. It's a joy to be with you guys.
We are delighted.
I've caught some of your work. You do a beautiful job with this, by the way.
Very sweet. It's been a fun passion project. I will admit part of it's just an excuse to hang out with my buddy Tanner here. It's good,
I love it.
Friend time, but we both love music, and it's such an honor to have people like you here where we can learn something, chit chat, and share with our audience. So
thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, I love it too.
Yeah, so we're going to get more into Brian and his bio in a little bit. For those who are, maybe second guessing themselves, you do recognize him from the Nite Show, Maine television. So we have a TV star in our midst, as well as a great big band leader. But we are going to play a little game today. Brian, we're calling it Take Me to Your Band Leader. So we're going to present you with 5 trivia questions.
Okay.
And the answer is either going to be band leader Paul Shaffer from The Letterman Show, or Questlove from Jimmy Fallon's The Tonight Show. So you'll have to choose. Is this factoid about Paul Shaffer or Questlove? And we are up with question number 1.
Question number 1, multiple choice. Here we go. Which band leader was once a chairman of the American Red Cross recruiting drive? Was it Paul Shaffer or Questlove?
Oh, I would think Paul Shaffer personally.
All right.
Correct.
Am I right? Oh, good.
You are. Well done.
He's such a nice guy. Yeah.
Totally. All right. Number 2. Which band leader owns 500 pairs of vintage eyewear? Is it Paul Shaffer or Questlove?
I'm going to go again with Paul Shaffer.
Ooh.
Very
Am I
cool.
wrong?
No, that was Quest.
Very
Was it? Yeah, because I saw Paul change a lot on the show, but good for Quest. Yeah.
500 pairs. Pretty
500 pair?
Yeah, 500 pairs.
Goodness. Wow.
Can you handle it? I know. All right, number 3. Which band leader is also a skilled tap dancer? Was it Paul Shaffer or Questlove?
I'm going to say Questlove.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Excellent work. All right,
Yes.
number 4.
Number 4. Which band leader has guest starred in episodes of The Sopranos, Law and Order, and How I Met Your Mother? Is it Paul Shaffer or Questlove?
I'm going to go with Paul.
It is Paul Shaffer.
Yeah.
Well done.
Correct. Number 5, final question for you, Brian. Here we go. Which band leader once brought a Valentine's Day date to a roller skating party hosted by Prince? Was it Paul Shaffer or Questlove?
Questlove.
Correct.
Great job. Great job.
Excellent
4 out of
work.
5. Ain't bad.
Gotcha.
Should be a strong title.
Well done.
So one
Thank
last
you.
little thing we like to do with all of our guests before we
Yeah.
launch into your bio. We want to give you the opportunity to guess the #1 Billboard song on the day you were born. You were kind enough to submit your birthday, which was January 9th, 1967. You were brought into this world, blessed into our lives. Do you have any idea what the #1 song was the day you were born?
Thank you. And you know what? I was going to research that behind the scenes and I didn't. So this is really going to be a stumpa, as they say in Maine.
Stumpa.
Ayesha. So I'm gonna do a wild guess, and it's probably not right, but it happens to be one of my favorite songs from that time frame. So I don't know if it's right, but I'm gonna go with Petula Clark and Downtown.
Oh,
So
wow.
close.
That's such a good guess.
It was probably like January 10th for real. January 9th was
I'm a Believer by the Monkees.
Ah, cool. That's so cool.
what a cool perfect
love
way
it.
to enter into the world.
It is. Oh
You
yeah,
know?
I even look like one of them. No, just kidding.
That's
Wow,
awesome.
so you're also a Capricorn like us. We're all end of December,
Are we?
January babies.
We are, yeah.
Oh.
I'm December 28th, and Morgan is New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, New Year's Eve. That's a lot to celebrate then.
There's
Well,
a lot going on.
wow, boy, when that ball drops, that's a biggie for you, isn't
Rock
it?
and roll.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And Tanner, yours being so close to Christmas too. That's pretty awesome unto itself.
Oh, yeah, it's a good reason to celebrate. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a fun,
that's great. I
fun
love
week.
it. Yes.
Wow. All right. Well, I am going to do the honors, if I may, to just sort of spotlight some of the magical things you've been up to. Read some of your bio. Feel free to chime in, to add anything at the end. But I'll just jump right in. So Brian Nadeau picked up a trumpet and started fooling around with it at the age of only 3 years old. 3 people. 3. At the age of 6, he had his first lesson and continued private lessons all through high school in Orono, Maine.
Mhm.
At 18, he got a professional break after auditioning with a band in Boston and played full-time before returning home to Maine by choice as he missed his home state. Love that.
Yeah.
He has backed notable stars and vocalists in shows like Manhattan Transfer, The Four Tops, The Temptations, Frankie Valli, and others. His career has been extensive as a leader and lead trumpeter in big bands, Dixieland ensembles, and combos. Brian also leads the 3-time New England Emmy-nominated Nite Show band, as seen statewide on television stations across New England on Saturday nights.
Woo-hoo.
Brian Nadeau, welcome to It's Music Time. We are so stoked that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm humbled to hear that. Thank you so much. I've been very, very lucky, being a guy from Maine who, got a break that was good enough to make some of those connections happen. I will say that when I did go to Boston and worked with some of the best musicians in the country, best jazz musicians in the country, it really helped prep me for things like those appearances with the stars when the call would come in, so that my reading, my phrasing, and everything was ready to go when the call came in. And I'm grateful that it did because, having done some of that and having been in show business, for a long time, it's magical. And back then, everything was appreciated on a different style and level than it is today. I think it might have had a little more magic prior to social media, prior to the Facebook lands, and not that they're a bad thing, they're a great thing. And what a way to get the word out about everything, with social media and everything. But prior to all of that, it was just radio and television, pretty much. And the television, when you saw a star on television, it made them seem that much a bigger entity, if you will. So one thing I didn't mention there, because there's only so much room for a bio, but at age 12, I surprisingly got called up unexpectedly on stage with Milton Berle, who was the father of television, referred to, the comedian. And he was at Lakewood Theater. Yeah, he was at Lakewood Theater in Madison, because Lakewood used to bring stars to Maine quite frequently. And my dad, who's also a trumpet player, was playing his show. and they found out that this kid had performed with the Al Corey Big Band all over the state of Maine. And Milton said, I want that kid to come up on stage tonight. He said, I'm going to surprise him and call him up on stage. So he did. And I soloed on the show tune, Hello, Dolly.
Amazing.
Yeah. And Milton really was so supportive. And afterwards, he said, you come hang with me out back, along with the other musicians on break. And we were all, the band and I were sitting on the back deck at Lakewood. Milton was, after the show, he changed into his bathrobe. He was smoking his cigar, and we were all sitting there talking show business with the father of television.
You were 12.
I was 12. And what a rush that was. And you couldn't ask for a sweeter guy. So, you know, when I look at my life, when I look back on my life, I think to myself, boy, Bri, for, you know, styles that aren't as popular as they used to be, I've had a great life. You know, I'm 57 now, and as I look back on it, there were so many opportunities. You know, playing with a lot of the stars was a beautiful eye-opener for me as well. A lot of those people, like Frankie Valli, that came in as a surprise because his lead trumpet player from Texas was ill the night he was to be at the Cross Center up in Bangor and performing. And they called me last minute and said, would you please come in and do the show?
Wow.
And I was a little bit nervous because you're going to be sight reading you know, music that you've never seen before, arrangements, and you're going to be doing it in front of over 5,000 people live with the superstar who I've listened to on records for years standing right in front of me. That's a little bit unnerving.
Incredible. How do you manage those nerves? Like, what did you do?
It's just, you have to basically concentrate more on the details of the music and focus on that and not so much what you're doing.
Yes.
And thank God his musical director, Robbie Robinson, who is the best out of all music directors I've ever worked for, his musical director, Robbie Robinson, is the sweetest guy I've ever met. And he guided me through everything admirably. So I couldn't easily miss that night with his being, you know, out in front of me. He was right where we made good eye contact if he needed to throw cues to me and everything like that. But it was a lot of pressure, and but I loved it. It was a great opportunity, and thank God he told me I did a great job. So, because, you know, those things, nerves can overtake you too.
Of course.
And they almost did once. I also was featured soloist at the Boston Garden for a Boston Celtics game one night.
Wow.
Now, and where I'm not a sports enthusiast, I was 18 years old. I really didn't know what I was getting into until I got to the Boston Garden. And these were in the days of Kevin McHale and all those tall people. And I got there because the gentleman who normally did it, I was working for the Winnaker Orchestras in Boston at the time. And he called me last minute and he said, I'm not going to make it. Would you be willing to go do it? And I said, yeah, can't be that big a deal. Sure. Well, I got there because I was late getting there, in getting the message, getting to the garden, taking a cab, getting down there. I arrived about 2 minutes before the solo of the national anthem. And maybe that's a good thing, because when I stepped out onto the main floor of the Boston Garden, I happened to look up at the scoreboard. 15,582 people. The figure is up here, etched in my brain forever.
Oh my goodness.
In attendance that night, and then the national anthem played by just me. That almost, when I talk about taking your nerves, that almost made me collapse, because when I was doing it, my legs were shaking. I was shaking because I was scared half to death, but I got through it. That's the important one. Yeah. But so experiences like that, my friends, is, you know, I've been very lucky, because some people never get those opportunities to do anything like that. So I'm very grateful, you know, because jazz musicians nowadays, there's not a lot of work out there for them. You've got to be able to adjust your style of what you do. And I do wedding bands now where I'm playing the trumpet part in Uptown Funk. Now, when you go from Glenn Miller's In the Mood to playing songs like Uptown Funk, that's quite a change.
Sure is. Sure is.
but it's all good, and you've got to kind of take it that way when you think to yourself, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what's required. It's a job, and you basically step up to it and you do it. And that's part of the background. But in recent years, having the Nite Show has been a pleasure because I've got such a great band on there. And Danny is a sweetheart to work with. Danny Cashman is one of the nicest people you could ever meet and work with in the entertainment field. So the fact that we've lasted this long, I think, is because he really has put together, he does all the editing too of the taping. He's just a talented broadcaster in addition to being a great show host. And so for the band members, we've been grateful because here we are, we're working a gig on a Wednesday night when we do the tapings. And we're acting out show business while we're doing it. We're backing up people that come on the show. They'll bring their sheet music to us if they want to play with us. And then we're playing into the commercial breaks, much like the David Lettermans, the Jimmy Fallons. We do all that. And lucky me, I've got musicians in the state that really, they're up there with some of the very best. David Clark on guitar is fabulous. Bob Roman, Steve Orlovsky on woodwinds, Jim Winters on trombone, Mike Borgia drums, Lincoln Blake on piano. They're all ready to go. So when you throw something in front of them, even if it's a new song we've never played before, say we have Bill Green and we have Bill Green's Main of Channel 6. These guys, if we find the keys and we talk the chords, we're ready to go on the air with it in I don't want to say seconds, but minutes.
Incredible.
And yeah, so every little thing we've done has been so special, and it's pressure, yeah, but it's a great kind of pressure. It builds you. And so there will be a day when I'll be sitting on the couch at home with my pugs, who I love dearly, and my wife, and we'll be sitting there and we'll be looking back on these days as the good old days because we had opportunities to do things, and so yeah, I'm sad to see the show wind down this spring. We'll be ending it, but at the same time, it's a good time to end right now because we're kind of on a high note, if you will. The show is still doing well in the ratings. Local television shows don't normally last as long as this one has. So we've been very lucky. And
27 years, right?
Gee, when you put it all together, it might be. Yes, you're right. You're right, Tanner.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, this version of the show started, I think, in 2010 or 2011. What happened was Danny took a break for a while. He started back in, I think it was 95 or 96-ish. And like you say, 27 years. I just can't do the math this quickly. And then he left it for a few years, and then he brought it back.
Okay.
And this second version of the show is what I've been a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Cattell was the first musical director when we first started. And then after a couple of years, he getting up there in years and being a grandpa, he wanted to be with his grandchildren more. So that's when they asked me if I would take over and do it. And I did. And I've been there ever since, basically. So it's been a great run and a great opportunity. We've met so many great people. Having people in the studio audience, it's the real thing. It's real showbiz. And, the only other taste I got of that was when I was younger, 18 years old. The group I was playing with in Boston, I was only on the band a week when I got that opportunity and auditioned, and they took me. The following week, we went to WCVB TV in Boston. We were doing the Jerry Lewis Labor Day Telethon live on television. Mm. And it was just me on trumpet, 2 saxes, and 3 rhythm section players. And the rest was all acts out in front of us that were performing. So they threw the sheet music at us the night before the live television performance. And we went live on television the next night all across Massachusetts on the Jerry Lewis Labor Day Telethon.
And
live.
again, you were 18.
I was 18. Yeah. And you talk about getting thrown into the fire fast. That's it. And I was thinking to myself, when I saw myself up in the studio monitor, before you go on the air, there's a studio monitor that shows what's going to be going out on television. That's when I started to get really nervous because I saw myself in that monitor in the corner of it. And I'm like, oh my God, there's no way out of this. Right. I'm going to go on live television in about 2 minutes. And there was a little counter counting down too. So, but all of that, what it does is it develops your nerves so that you know how to control them in time. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I was good at it. When I was 18, I shook. I was really scared. But the good thing is that the more you do it, the more you get used to it, and the more it becomes a regular thing. Yeah. So, but any kids today that want to go do what I did, I feel so bad for them because we're in a different world now. Gosh, wouldn't I love to encourage them and say, boy, showbiz, trumpet, big band, go for it, kiddo. I love you. Please take over for me. Follow, I need somebody to follow in my shoes, and I'm getting tired. I want somebody to take over. There aren't the opportunities for them, and it breaks my heart. That there are opportunities, but you've got to seek them out in the right places. And if you do, you might do okay. If you join a military band, one of my former students, trumpet students, did do that, and he was successful. He went to Japan. He was in the Marines, and he did really well. But performance and playing for the stars, like I've been able to do, they're dying. Frankie Valli, he's still touring in his 80s. I can't get over him. He's amazing. But he's not going to be around forever, of course. Johnny Mathis, who I played for at Merrill Auditorium in Portland. I did his show too. Amazing. These guys in their 80s sound just like they did in the 50s, it's just they won't be around forever. And it's an evolution of new things that are, and not that they're bad. It's just that I'd love to see more opportunities for an instrumentalist nowadays. That's all.
Absolutely.
Can I ask, do you think that those opportunities or lack thereof, is that unique to like America, or like, what about students seeking opportunities maybe internationally? Like, is jazz popular overseas?
I love what you're saying. And those are great points, Tanner. What's interesting is over in Japan, it seems that musicians are appreciated more. And my former student confirmed that because he said the concerts that he did over there, he did lots of them. He even arranged for the groups. He said it's amazing how appreciative they are. And, there was a group, one of my favorite groups out of the 70s. I'm such a soft sap, the Carpenters. When they went over to Japan, they were more well received over there than they were here in the United States. If you remember the United States, they were known as the Pepsodent twins because, it was just too sweet, and some people were like, oh, that's so tacky. That's so corny. But you go over to Japan and they're like in love with them. It's a love fest. And Richard Carpenter himself said that, So yeah, that's why when you mentioned that, Tanner, it resonated with me a little bit, and perhaps so. Because those are a couple of confirmations of that. So it is something to think about. No question about it.
Well, it's like I've said this before, but our podcast is very big in Finland.
Oh, nice. Well, you're not kidding, are you?
Someday, maybe.
I say that in jest.
Yeah, but you know what? You might be surprised. I mean, if you guys keep doing this, you may surprise yourselves at how popular and wide it does get, because that can happen. It really can. That's the amazing thing about social media.
It's true.
And you are we are all broadcasting right now, and the world can see it, and it's amazing. Yeah.
Well, and we're in season 1 of this show, and
are you?
Yeah, and you're going to be our this episode comes out on December 1st.
You're
nice. Be our, second to final guest of the season.
Oh,
and as part of this whole process, we've reached out to a wide net of people, and we would not have been able to do that without social media and figuring out who to contact.
Right.
Because part of what we want to do here is, reach out to some larger names so that we can get some different eyeballs onto the program, but then also bring in smaller, weekend gears to the show and get them some attention as well.
Absolutely.
We really try to, pride ourselves in that kind of crossover.
I love it. Well, and that's interesting for people to see too. Anything that rings home and combining big names with hometown people and mixing it up that way, I think keeps it interesting, because people love to see fellow local people and what they're doing. And that's why I think the Nite Show has done well. It's local. It's definitely local. But what Danny did was, oh gosh, it was a struggle at times, but he got some really big names in. John Davidson of Hollywood Squares fame,
Yep.
among other things. He hosted the Tonight Show for Johnny Carson a number of times. The former Lou Grant, Ed Asner. Ed Asner was on with us once. I think he was in Elf or The Grinch or something. I can't remember what child thing he was in, but he was Lou Grant for years too. And then F. Lee Bailey, the attorney, he was on the show. And then Danny would get local media people on the show. Amanda Hill from News Center, who's a sweetheart. He had her on a number of times. Rob Caldwell was on with us. He was fantastic. George Hale, legend in our state as a broadcaster. He's in his 90s and he's still doing a morning show with Rick Tyler on The Voice of Maine. It's amazing that they're, it's amazing when you mix all that together. Big national names, more local people, and they're all so amazing to watch. And you realize that some of those local people are really major league talents. They just might not have gotten the big break that some of the other people got. Because when you talk to these people and the stars like we have, they're very down to earth. They're sweethearts,
Yeah.
Ed Asner was he appreciated our band so much too. He made a point of coming over and saying, "Damn, you guys are good," and to have an Asner say that to you, that's a real high, because you think to yourself, "Oh my God, those long hours of practice and hard work, and sometimes a gig goes good, sometimes it doesn't." Well, Ed Asner comes and tells you did a good job, and he's a nationally known, beloved star. That just solidifies it for you. But if I may, really quickly here. A high for me was something I did just last night. Have a former social studies teacher from Asa Adams Elementary School in Orono, Maine. That's where I went to school. His wife called me and said, "Brian, it would make John's birthday if we could surprise him and have you come play for him." Aww. As a surprise. Yeah. And he's 87. Aww. So it was a total surprise to him. And he was bowled over by it, which was just so sweet. And I played any request he asked for. Thank God I knew them all, because sometimes you're not sure if you will or not, because I had no sheet music. It was just cold. Oh, but to see what that music does for the human being in any age level, whatever resonates with them, but to see the magic that hits them and know that you're creating that for them and their emotions inside, you're taking them back in time to a certain era, and you can do that. You can transmit them magically back.
Truly.
It's powerful, and for me, and they wrote me today, it was just, they were so touched, because I wouldn't take money for it either. I just doing things like this or helping veterans out and veterans causes, that's when I give. And I've been known to go out and do things absolutely at no charge, because there's a bigger sense of importance and responsibility beyond making a living with all the things I do. And I don't just do music.
Well, exactly. And it's so beautiful to hear, and then we'll transition into some of these other things you're doing. Sure. And Tanner wanted to touch on some of that, but it brings me back to that word that you said at the very beginning, which is like show business and music. There's some magic to it. There's a quality of magic. And when you bring your resonant sound and the vibration of your trumpet, and and the fact that for an elderly person, it can really transport them and bring this surge of vitality and liveliness into their eyes and into their body. That's a real gift that I feel like only music and only live music really has the power to do. And how truly generous and beautiful that you recognize that gift and give it so freely with such an open heart. That's really gorgeous.
Well, can I share one more thing with you? The most powerful, by the way, everything you said, I love it. You're spot on, my friend. And that'll segue into this next quick thing I want to tell you. The most powerful job I've ever done is when I donate my services to a nursing home and I go in and they're Alzheimer's patients.
Yes.
They remember the songs and the lyrics, but they can't remember anything else.
Yes.
That is such, I don't know how to put it into proper words. It's magic. It is magical. And what I did a few years ago is I went down to Westbrook, a nursing home down there, and a former saxophone player, a lady that played saxophone, we tested it out because Nancy Penna, the vocalist of the day, knew this lady, and she said, we should try to get her to play and see how it goes. My God, just like Tony Bennett when he had his last performance with Lady Gaga, she played everything and remembered everything. Nothing else really was that functional for her up here. So, to watch that, it's a miracle that you're experiencing live and in the moment. Totally. And for me, that's extremely powerful. Unbelievable.
It is such a gift.
Yeah, it is. And I'm grateful, because there were times. Oh, I'm sorry, Tanner. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, music reaches parts of the brain that we can't explain for one reason or another.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And it is amazing. It's so dynamic, powerful, and I consider it, the reason I go and donate my time is because I'm lucky to have this. This is a gift to me, so why don't I give a gift to somebody else to make the connection whole and happen? That's the way I look at it. So I'll be doing more of that when I retire from the Nite Show. I'll be seeking more things like that to do at the end of my career, whenever that happens to be, because if I can still bring some happiness to our seniors while they're still with us, that'll be one of the greatest accomplishments of my musical career, even above playing for the stars. Seriously.
Wow. Oh, that's so gorgeous. Wow. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you do. It's such an important population to, bring in and nurture. I feel like elders can be not given the love and respect they deserve in this culture sometimes. And my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and music was one of the things that really made her come alive. I think too about the documentary Alive Inside. Have you seen that?
I have not seen that, but I need to.
It's pretty striking. It's all about music and folks with dementia and Alzheimer's. And it's a gentleman who goes into nursing homes and elder care facilities and brings music that is tailored to the individual and their era of teenage years, 20 somethings, and finds music and puts their little headphones in, and my gosh, they just light right up. And like Tanner said, it really does access a part of the brain that we can't really explain, and a part of the brain that is one of the last to be affected, I think, by things like dementia and Alzheimer's. So well done, Brian. So let's talk a little bit about some of the other projects you want to chat about.
Well, yeah, I mean, you answered a lot of my questions, honestly, Brian. But I really just kind of wanted to know, with the Nite Show coming to an end, you've got these new, you've alluded to what you're going to do beyond that, but I want to know if you might have any other, additional projects. Are you making music? Do you make your own music?
To survive, I do a number of different things. Number one, I'm a part-time, at least at this time right now, I'm a part-time disc jockey for a radio station on the coast of Maine, down East Coast, called Star 97.7. So I do a weekend radio shift on a smooth rock and roll format of the 70s, 80s, 90s. So I'll probably keep doing that, only because I like to talk like this a lot of the time, because it's fun to tell radio. Thank you very much. But, I'll probably keep doing that. The other thing, thank you very much. The other thing I will probably keep, if the jobs are there, the Al Corey Big Band going. Al Corey's Big Band, I know some people don't even know about it, but it is a precious part of Maine history in a big swing band that's been going since 1944, since the end of World War II. And Al was from Waterville, Maine. And Al passed away. He was like a dad to me. He was who I soloed with as a child all across the state when I was 7 years old. So when I was 6, I started the private lessons. When I was 7, I was going all over the state, soloing out in front of Al Corey's big band, playing Hello, Dolly, and the other big hit of the time, Tie Yellow Ribbon, Round the Old Oak Tree by Tony Orlando and Dawn. And, crowds love that sort of thing because they love seeing this short little kid. The only difference is I didn't grow any. I'm very short, by the way. I'm 5'6". But they love seeing this little kid walk out with a trumpet and just wail and play those songs of the day. Amazing. So Al's band, and the legacy of featuring, showcasing Maine talents, he had a phenomenal vocalist who was on the Jackie Gleason show, who was from Maine, and the Arthur Godfrey show, Patty Delaney. She was just unbelievable. So she sang with his band back in the 70s, and his band sounded like a band from a big city, Los Angeles, New York. I mean, it was just so good. So the band still exists now. It's just that the jobs and the work aren't out there like they used to be. And Al passed in 2004. Since that time, I've been leading it. The good news is, for a good number of years, we've stayed busy. But now, in the past year or two, it's started to really, really slow down. So, question becomes, do I want to market that band as a wedding band for people who want vintage sounds at their wedding?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Maybe, and these are things I'm thinking about. So I guess to answer your question, there are projects I can think about and do. And I guess I'll have to ask myself, is it worth the time? Is it worth the investment to do all that? And it might be, because if there are enough people out there that enjoy it, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. But if it becomes a hard battle to sell it, then really sitting with the pugs on the couch is a beautiful thing.
Sure.
Understood.
Well, with all you've done in life, Brian, even if you, rode off into the sunset, I can't think of anyone else that, enjoys a well-deserved vacation more than you. You've done so much.
I appreciate it. Oh, you guys are so sweet. Thank you. No, and I'm grateful and blessed for every last centimeter of it all, I really am, because I got opportunities that some of my colleagues never got, and I feel horribly about that, because I feel like some of them are more talented than I am. They have greater ability than I have. It's just that being in the right place at the right time is show business a lot of times. And if you are in that right place and you catch that lucky break and you make the connection with the right person, then fair or unfairly, you get catapulted to great things and opportunities. And those keep building as long as you continue to improve yourself, as long as you stay humble and nice and kind. That's a big secret. If I were a jerk and I were arrogant, I wouldn't have had the opportunities that I've been lucky enough to have. And I'm not. I'm very sensitive. I love people. And I'm very down to earth. One of the greatest thrills I get right now is being, I don't want to even say I'm a private teacher because I barely have any time to do it, but I love teaching kids and helping kids, and if I think that I can give them a little bit of taste of the fun of playing, then that's a great thing, because they're going to love it. And some of them really love it. And that's stimulating for me. So there are different projects I can embark on. I've got my own business too, which basically services public school music programs all over the state of Maine. So I'm an affiliate of a rental company. So we do instrument rentals. I also have a subcontractor who does repairs of school band instruments. So I'm driving all over the state, like I was even today, picking up instruments everywhere, getting them repaired, taking them back. And, that's been a very, very successful career for me. And the reason being is because some companies don't see the importance of the service of doing that, being a courier, being a support, and those sorts of things. So it's cool because I'm a part-time performing musician. I'm a business owner that travels and supports music in schools. And then the other stuff I do, be it radio or teaching kids every now and then instruments, what better book of activity could you have at this chapter of life, But it will be nice to back off from it a little bit too, because I am so busy right now. And there gets to be a point when too much saturation isn't good too,
Totally.
And I'm grateful for it. You gotta strike while the iron's hot.
It's such a good attitude. It's so nice to just like sort of listen in awe of like kind of the underlying methodology or energy or orientation towards life that you've carried with you through your career and through these opportunities in music. I mean, it's very clear to me, to us, that you love what you do. You have a sense of service and positivity and passion and wonder. And I think that sometimes it can be challenging to remain kind of in love with your craft or in love with what you do, and to be able to listen to you having had this incredible life of so many different iterations and performances and teaching positions, that you still seem like you really love what you do, and that's so valuable and inspiring.
Morgan, so well said. And the thing of it is, and I'm grateful for every bit of it, and I want to be very honest, with anything good that's happened, you got to go through a lot of bad too, because you got to appreciate it. There is a journey to be learned from, and as long as, because nothing is perfect, there are going to be times in the music business when you're going to feel like you've been walked on, like you've been dragged around and stuff like that. But that's part of the healthy journey too, because what that does is that gives you the wisdom to persevere even better if you take it as such. And you say, okay, this is an education to realize how I've got to get around these obstacles and these little turns here and there. Am I perfect? No, far from it, very far from it. But I try to keep the attitude that, okay, if you stub your toe or if something doesn't go just right, pick up the pieces, learn from it, and then try to be that much better when you transact a piece of business or interact with a certain person that's difficult and trying to be difficult. Let it go. Use it as an education and a positive to try to, because you can, and then if you do let it go like that, it's amazing when it turns around in your favor later on,
Great advice.
Yeah. So, and you got to realize we're all just here for this run, this one run we're doing in life. I mean, we may live multiple lives, it depends on what your beliefs are and everything. But for this one life, the thing we should do is not take any of it too seriously.
Well, I think that is the perfect segue into our deep cut, which deals a lot with regret and perseverance. What are we talking about? What are we talking about today, Morgan?
So, you've given us so much gold to meditate on. I'm always in awe of wisdom when someone holds it, and it is a privilege to receive. So before moving on, thank you so much. Deep cut.
Too.
What is the deep cut? It is a part of the episode where we go a little deeper. We ask a strange and obscure question about music. So this one, on this episode, we want to talk about the record store regret. This idea of, okay, you went in and you got something and you were excited about it, and then you got it home and you were like, this is really not kind of for me. This just doesn't resonate for me. No harm or no shade on this particular artist or what have you, but it just didn't work. And so then the question is, what have you gone to purchase? A piece of music, a record, you had that feeling of regret, and then if you could do it again, what would you go in and choose in lieu of that, or in its place? Tanner, did you think about this?
I did, yeah, and I'll share my answer, and then I'll throw it to both of you. So my father is a huge Rolling Stones fan, and that's a band that resonated with a generation of people, and so me being born in 1983, I've always kind of been searching for that one band that was like my generation's band, that we could hang on to. And around the turn of the century in the 2000s, that band was Coldplay, and they had come out with Parachutes. I loved it. I'm like, this band resonates with me. They came out with A Rush of Blood to the Head. I thought that was an evolution of Parachutes. And then in 2005, they're getting ready to release their third album, X and Y. And it was really hyped. And there are some great songs on that album. Fix You is on that album. Speed of Sound is on that album. But when you go and you listen to it in its totality, it seems it feels a little complacent on their part, like they didn't make that next step forward. And I do think they redeemed themselves on their following effort, Viva La Vida. That album is a little bit more interesting to me, but that's my answer for a record that I kind of, I don't regret buying it, but it was kind of a letdown. And if I had my money back, and I could go back into the record store in 2005 and buy something else, I would actually buy an album called Silent Alarm by this band called Block Party. And they're an English, kind of alt rock outfit. And I do own that album. I bought it years later. But I love it. It's full of energy. And, you only get so much money to spend in the record store. So you gotta make that choice wisely.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Brian, do you have any thoughts on this deep cut?
Yeah, mine's for different reasons. First of all, I love the band Chicago. And when I bought one of their albums, I'm also an audiophile, which means I listen critically to how things are recorded. This transparent shirt I've got on here, I'm back to whatever. It's an audio company from High End Audio. They make great cables. They're from Maine, actually. When I heard Chicago and I think it was Transit Authority, 25 or 6 to 4, when I heard it on the radio, because of radio processing, it sounded better than the album did. The album itself, I felt and feel, was horribly recorded. And I bought the album thinking it was going to sound wonderfully dynamic, wonderfully open like vinyl does, of course. But it sounded to me like it was recorded in a tin can, and it was compressed, massively compressed. And it didn't have the openness of some of the older recordings or some of the similar, for comparison, Frankie Valli did Can't Take My Eyes Off You. That was his hit. If you remember the brass section when they came in on that, they sound crystal clear. And they're nice, and the high frequencies are there. With the Chicago album, everything was like together, and there were not great highs and clean sound. So that I had a regret of buying at that time because I thought, oh, this sounds terrible. Then, and it is possible too that the vinyl itself could have been bad because sometimes you have bad pressings. But this wasn't the case because I heard another one that sounded the same way. And radio stations, when they played the album, they had equalizers that could enhance the sound.
Okay.
They'd have these little microprocessors that would make 25 or 6 to 4 by Chicago. If that at that time, they were smart little machines. They'd know how much to punch the high frequencies, the mid frequencies, and the lows. But when you hear it on a standard stereo system, to me, it wasn't. So what I would go back and buy, if I would buy it, is buy a later recording of it, of the band doing it live.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, because I think to myself, because I love the horn parts. I love the energy that I'm hearing them play with. I just want to be punched when I'm listening to it, So that's probably the best way I can explain that one. And it was a regret more for the recording itself, but not the musicians are phenomenal. Those guys are just amazing. And they're amazing people too, I've heard. So, I love Chicago. It's a great group.
Sure,
so good.
That's a great answer. I love the idea of a live recording as opposed to the studio. Yeah,
you capture the excitement that way. And by the way, as a performing musician on the stage, guess what? You got a crowd doing this in front of you. Guess what? You're going to play better because it just energizes you, and you feel this. Yes, you feel this force and this adrenaline inside you that lights like a fire, and you just play with more. You dig in more, and it's so exciting to work with musicians who can really pull it off too. It's hard to put into words, but the crowd feels it, you feel it, and it's magical. Thank you. Yeah, it is. So I'd like to hear Chicago do that because they're great.
Right. Totally.
How about you, Morgan?
Gosh, okay. So I had an answer and then I just trashed it in my head just now because I'm thinking back to my middle school, high school years. I think middle school. maybe even earlier. My sister and I got the Eiffel 65 album that was the I'm Blue, Abadi Abadai. It was like an unbelievably irritating, but deliciously like impossibly to forget song that I'm Blue, Dabadi Dabadai. Like it's just like awful and fabulous all in once. So I regret getting that album because we spent so many hours driving my entire family crazy, singing that song, making dances out of that song, like just maddening. And so
Love it.
I was thinking about like, okay, well, what would I have gotten instead? And then years later, you know, thinking on this Blue theme, Kind of Blue by Miles Davis, that album.
Yeah, good
Just
for
like
you.
An exquisite work of magical art. Like I don't even know how else to describe it.
Great
If I were to choose one album to listen to like front to back again and again and again, it's probably one of them. I actually created a body of artwork inspired a lot by that album. And I think like, okay, if I had a bit more wisdom and wasn't so enchanted by the sort of pop culture wave, which is so fun to indulge in, especially when you're in middle school. But I think in hindsight, I would probably go back and buy that album, but on vinyl because it sounds so much better on vinyl.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's
There's
like
a certain openness to it.
Just beyond. What a genius. Like,
oh yeah.
Wow.
He was.
So that's my story.
I love it. I think it's
I do too.
Yeah,
I do too. It shows sophistication in the way you listen to, both of you. I mean, with what you guys both mentioned. I mean, I love it. You guys have great imaginations, great ears, and you know, that's what music is all about. Music is supposed to move people in certain ways, and it's supposed to bring the senses to the front. And however style it is, or whatever style it is open. That's wonderful, you know. And if it resonates with you, that's the bottom line, you know.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, I guess we're kind of meandering our way towards the end of the episode, if we can believe it. But before
you gotta mix it up playlists.
Oh yeah, of course. We have our Mix It Up playlist. Go for it, Tanner.
Sure. So as our listeners know, with every episode, we have a accompanying playlist that you can click on in the Spotify description. And we've asked Brian to contribute 4 songs to that list. I've contributed 4, and Morgan has contributed 4. And we're going to add Brian's birthday song onto that list as well, because why not? Who doesn't love I'm a Believer by the Monkees?
Yeah.
Right.
But
yeah. So, Brian, do you have a song that maybe you want to highlight for our audience? Talk a little bit about one of your submissions.
This will probably blow you guys out of the water because, you know, here I am, a big band jazz musician by training. However, my love for the 70s and 80s music is just unbelievable, because in the 80s, I was in high school then. And one of my favorite songs from the 80s was Phil Collins' Against All Odds.
Yes.
I don't know. There's just something about it that it's almost like a motion picture within the song itself, by itself. The song
perfectly said, yeah.
Doesn't it? And that to me is magical, because every time you hear it, you go back to that Friday night bonfire in Orono, and you smell the fall air, and Against All Odds is playing on your radio, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm back there again. So that's why that's one of the songs that really hits me that way.
That's an excellent
answer. That's a great one. What about you, Tanner?
Yeah, and I just want to say that's the cool thing about these playlists is they're called Mix It Up for a reason. Yeah. So, you know, it's a true mix of songs. You know, I was really trying to be conscious with my selections because we have a brass musician here, and I wanted to try to incorporate some of that. And so the song I want to highlight is it's called Wait by a band called Dive, Diiv, and they're out of New York City. And it's actually a live version. The studio recording doesn't have any brass in it at all, but they celebrated the 10th anniversary of their debut album in 2022. Their debut album is called Ocean, Oshin.
Oh, wow.
And Wait is one of those tracks. And when they performed it live, it was live at, I think it's called the Murmur Theater. They played that. They added this brass section to it, and it's an extended version of the song. Wait itself on the album is only about 2.5 minutes. And this is like a 7-minute production.
Ooh,
And
wow.
it's really just open and lush. And the brass section really just, I don't know, it brings new life to a track that is like, I don't know, almost forgettable in a way on the original album. But when done live, it's incredible.
And that's, you know, that it really freshens and gives it a chance too, you know, because if the other version is, you know, just kind of there and forgetful, you add all that to it. That's part of the magic of horn sections. And I love horn sections playing with rock bands and everything. It's just, and so do crowds. Oh my gosh. When they hear, when Huey Lewis teamed up with Tower of Power in the 80s, I don't know if you guys knew that. Check it out on YouTube if you haven't seen it. It just took on another level. You know, it just was new. So your song, I got to hear it now. I want to hear it with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It'll be on the playlist. What about you?
I chose a song called "You Are Delicious" by Maeve and Dave. My friend Jules introduced me to this song. He put it on one of our little dipper playlists. When we go into the ocean year round and swim, we always bring music and listen as we get into the cold water. And it's this kind of strange otherworldly experience. And this song is just like you were talking about, a song bringing you back to a moment. You smell the crisp air, you see the fire. And you know, I think this song, just the introduction, it's got really like a 60s, 70s energy. I think it actually came out in 2020 too, but it has like such a retro sound, and it is it's delicious. That's what it is. You Are Delicious is a song. Yeah.
Isn't that great? Yeah, and music really does move the senses. It really does.
Totally.
You know? Yeah.
Totally.
And I love that you guys are, you know, so supportive of the industry. You see the magic in it all, you know, and you're also enjoying the music for the right reasons too. You know, it's not hurtful. It's not vulgar. I mean, there is music out there like that, but it's so nice when we can really enjoy things that are so meaningful and sophisticated within the music, because I think that was the original purpose for music.
Sure. And storytelling, you know, too.
Yeah.
Like really
amen. Yeah.
People. Yeah. So good. Well, before we wrap up, we want to make sure people know where to find you if they would like to learn more about you or book you for a show or something. So, Brian, for booking, we have your email as trumpetbry@msn.com.
So nice of you. Thank you. That is correct. Thanks.
Very good. And then do you use your website as well, or mostly email?
I don't anymore. I'm mostly email now because there was confusion with the rental company that I use as far as what service. So right now I don't have that. Like I said, if I get back in the big band someday, I might.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. And then the Nite Show,
is good.
Facebook's also good. And then the Nite Show, if people are curious about that, if folks want to learn more, it's just the niteshowmaine.com.
Correct.
And then also the Nite Show Maine on Facebook or Instagram. Is that right?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Great. And then, you know, for folks who are listening, spreading the word about the It's Music Time podcast, we're on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook on the It's Music Time podcast. So you can find us there, and
don't touch that dial. As always, we have an encore performance at the end of this episode. Brian, tell us a little bit about this birthday song that you performed for your mother.
Well, thanks. Danny Cashman found out, actually, well, the way he found out is we did a surprise 90th birthday party to my mom. Totally surprised her, and this was the song that we brought her into because it's her favorite song, because her dad loved this song too. Ray Charles had a big hit with it. It's Georgia on My Mind, Georgia. So Danny was at the surprise birthday party for my mom, and he heard us do it, and he came over to me on the break. He does sometimes. How about doing that on the show? He said. And I said, "Oh, Dan, that would be fantastic." He said, "Let's not tell your mom. Let's surprise her, and I'll announce it." So yeah, she was completely bowled over when he did it, totally surprised. And
isn't that beautiful?
it is. That's how Danny is. Danny is a beautiful person. He really is. He thinks of these things, you know, and people that are like that are golden and they're rare, you know. So Mom was very touched. My dear friend Steve Fodder did the vocal on it. I asked Steve to come in and do, because some of these songs just sound great with a vocalist. You know, if it had been just me, it wouldn't have been enough, I didn't feel. So I called my buddy Steve Fodder, who sings with the Al Corey Big Band, and he's done many things on his own. Plus, he was on national television in his younger years for the Jimmy Swaggart Show. And he's a performer. He's a big arena performer. So anyway, he came in, he did it. And it was just beautiful. And that's why we did Georgia on My Mind. So we were all putting our hearts into it, a lot of soul into it, and it was so nice. And Mom is still going strong. She still drives herself everywhere.
So glad to hear it.
She does her grocery shopping. You know, she's a go-getter from down East Maine, like my grandmother was.
Amazing. Hardy. I love that.
Yeah,
she is.
Well, thank you so much for contributing that track, and you know. I would really encourage our listeners to watch the video recording of this on YouTube.
Thanks.
So
yeah, I used a trumpet plunger when I did it because she loves trumpet plunger. Now, by the way, you can get it at your local hardware store for just $3.99. But what you do is you put the plunger in the bell of the trumpet, in case you're wondering why I use that, and it makes this wah-wah sound, kind of like the teacher in Charlie Brown.
Sure.
And it gives it a flavor. You know, and mom says in her down east accent, "Now, don't I love that plunger when you play with that plunger, Bri? Why don't I her that plunger, darling?" So I brought out the plunger. So that's why you see a sink. It's not a toilet plunger; it's a sink plunger, and it's used for those. Louis Armstrong used to do it too. So anyway, it's kind of in that style.
I love that so much.
Thank you.
Wow, how cool. Well, we are just hearts warm over here. Thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your wisdom. Really, really, really such a treat.
Thank you.
I will just, give a little sign off from our end of things, and then we'll just plan to hopefully see you somewhere around Maine here, Brian.
I hope so, and I wish you guys the very best with your podcast, because I think it's wonderful, and I think it's needed in these times. So thank you for caring and for putting all this together, because you guys have a really nice, well-programmed and set up activity log that goes with it, and I'm impressed. It's a great production, so I hope it's successful for you.
You're so kind. Such an honor to chat with you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Brian. Thank you, Universe, for tuning in. We would love to hear any feedback that you might have on the episode. Please consider leaving a review, a comment, a question, sharing with a friend. We appreciate your support. And until next time, stay cooler than cool. Take care. Thank you, Brian.
Brian, thank you.
Thank you very much. You
Bye.
too. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
So, one of our favorite people turned 90 earlier this week. She's in our audience at almost every taping, and she happens to be Brian Nadeau's mom. Here to perform a special song just for Beverly Nadeau. It's Brian Nadeau and the Nite Show Band with vocals by Steve Fodder and Georgia on My Mind.
Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through, just an old sweet song, yeah, keeps Georgia on my mind. Well, I'm talking about Georgia, sweet Georgia, a song of you comes as sweet and clear as the moonlight through the pine. Other arms reach out to me. Other eyes smile so tenderly. Still in peaceful dreams I see, the road leads back to you. Georgia, Georgia, no peace I find, just an old sweet sound. Keep Georgia on my mind. Oh yeah, sing it. Other arms, they reach out to me. Other eyes smile so tenderly. Still in peaceful dreams I see, the road always, always leads back to you. Oh, Georgia. Oh, the whole blessed day through, just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. Just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. Come on now. Oh yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank
Brian, that was awesome.
The It's Music Time podcast is an independent passion project produced by Tanner Grover and Morgan Mitchell. The theme song for this podcast is by Ben Shepherd, the artist known as Yay Yay. Find him on Instagram at YayYayMusic. Thanks for tuning in to the It's Music Time podcast. See you next time.